Hello and good morning. So, I just want to talk about Nadi Pariksha. Nadi Pariksha is considered as one of the oldest forms of examination of patient and understanding his health by means of reading the movements of the pulse. Now, just to illustrate something and then raise certain questions about it is what I am going to do. What is done is, if I look at my wrist on the radial uh, branch of the artery, you have your three fingers placed at three proximal places. You rather place the tips of your fingers, and then therein you feel the pulse. As you feel the pulse across these fingers, and naturally you're slightly pressing upon them. It is said that your first finger is Vata, the middle is reading Pitta, and the terminal is reading Kapha. And the characteristics have been defined basis of the nature of pulse movement, the kind of pulse it is, rapid, or there are different comparisons like is it traveling like a snake or like a horse or something like that. Now, how correct, how incorrect, it is very difficult to state as of today, because many dynamics have changed. Vaccination has changed the environment of the body right from day one. When you were born, you were inoculated, and through your lifespan you keep getting inoculated. There are various other factors that are getting impacted to your body environment. When you look at these, it is near impossible to say that your pulse reading is of a perfect health or an imperfect health, because your homeostasis is already altered, and that is imperfect compared to what it should have been. Number one. The second point is that two people, same age, same geography, same time of the day, and apart from this, same medical problem of the same grade with all the same laboratory parameters, still will not have the same nature of pulse. Number three, something that has not been given a numerical range will need to have a range to ascertain similarities between or draw similes between two people presenting with similar signs and conditions. That means the reference to a horse-like movement or a snake-like movement needs to be further elaborated within a certain range. Problem with pulse diagnosis, or problem with most Ayurvedic diagnosis, is that there is no numerical reference. There is no standardized charting available at the textbook level, at least, that anyone can refer and say that yes, it is this and it is this and it is this. Secondly, when you talk about pulse diagnosis, it is just not the nature of movement or the nature of pulse, but also to be understood that why is the pulse of that nature. And unless you have an appropriate understanding about the thickness of blood, about various other metabolic diseases existing, anything of this accord without any numerical references becomes what may be said as a ghost assessment. It rather is termed as hearsay in the modern scientific world and a broad guesswork. So it is important that we look at factors which will somehow correlate to this idea. When we do this correlation of the idea, we come across the point that there should be something that is more standardized, and that is where a Prakriti assessment plays a better role than Nadi Pariksha. Moreover, Nadi Pariksha is assumed based on certain parameters that a person is fully at rest at night, has had a proper sleep and everything, and is often said that it is to be done at a particular segment of hours of the day when you get it most appropriate. Now, clinical examination at that hour is not patient friendly. As a practice, it is cumbersome on the patient to drive him to a particular point in time to so-called do something which is mainly appeasing to your practice, to your ego as a practitioner. And any such investigation which does not have parameters that can be very standardized from be discussed and become standardized and they can be labeled across will always again become questionable. Now, when I am talking in this sense, I am not necessarily questioning the purpose of it or the thing, but what I am trying to lay out is that there has to be a better way of doing it. And there is nothing better than in the modern context to have things mathematically labeled. That arena missing is something that needs to be delved upon very strongly, because this also has very clear references to how ECGs, how TMTs, how other cardiac investigations in the form of what I would say radio diagnostics, or as linear diagnostics in form of a thread moving around that you see on the screen or is printed on a paper, apart from those coming from the laboratory, have to be in tandem with what you are reading on the wrist. So, in this context, Prakriti analysis is a much broader, much bigger investigation. It stands a bigger test and does not vitally call for a momentary assessment. Your pulse will vary across the diurnal rhythm of the day, but your Prakriti will not vary at the same rate. Rather, it will be much slower in variation across the 24 hours. Therefore, the stability of assessment that you get about the disease, about the problem, about the patient in case of Prakriti assessment is much higher than in pulse diagnosis. Pulse diagnosis or Nadi Pariksha may be very good for that instant, and I will not deny that, but it's only that instant. For a longer, for a lasting, for a more careful dialogue and treatment and management. Treatment is something that is more instantaneous, dialogue is a prolonged aspect, and management is maybe a lifelong or a longer term perspective. Serving all these three, Prakriti analysis or Prakriti management, is a stronger, powerful tool that has been largely overlooked in the guise of Nadi Pariksha or any such thing that leaves the patient more flabbergasted and in awe than with material evidence or material things to discuss, to talk and to refer to and even understand on his medically illiterate brain. We need to bring these together to formulate, to find methods where we can legitimately justify what we do today. The modern science, the modern context of theoretical sciences, of mathematics, has a much more important contribution to do to modern day Ayurveda. In the past, all these practices may have been mathematical, but definitely those practices have lost their essence in preaching. Perhaps just because those who were preaching, they were not as much interested to carry forward, to continue with the more concrete element which actually defined why these practices could have been and were very, very illustrious, very, very strong, as they are often heard about in the folklore. Welcome to the best of Prakruti analysis on this planet as of today, and that's a claim because I do not come across another one till date that matches it. There might be someone. Welcome, very welcome, a very, very warm welcome as a competition. But here we are dealing with something very, very complex and very, very far ahead. I'll not go into those details what we are working on, but definitely to say that yes, when I claim that perhaps we are the best, we are the best. Thank you.